Hey everybody, just doing a little mini BTC update. So obviously we've been continuously dumping. We kept losing levels over the weekend and we are now making new lows. What a surprise. So, looking at some of the data coming out this week, biggest things we have pre-market on Wednesday and Thursday. You got big stuff, CPI data, and then obviously initial jobs and PPI on Thursday. Expect those to be big. Remember, we're just a couple of days out from the next big federal interest rate decision. There's going to be a lot of pressure to lower interest rates based on some of the job data that we've had come out, and then also based on the fact that the markets are retreating and are adopting a risk-off policy. So going into Bitcoin specifically, yeah, there's not much to say other than we had a continuation of, we were about 2 to 1 long to short. Now we're at all the way up at 3 to 1 long to short. I haven't seen it that high. I mean, I think we saw it a couple of days ago where it was close to that, but 75. It's wild. In any case, all it means is the retail is still trying to long the lows, and pain is on the menu. We got some interesting stuff at 76, and I'll show you guys about that. On the funding rate side, funding rates are actually neutral bullish, but they're not wildly so. The big outliers here are Bybit, which is wildly providing low leverage, low funding rates, so negative funding rates, incentivizing longs. BitMEX doing slightly the same. But in general, you've got some big ones like BitGet, BingX, Binance, Skate, all kind of standard and neutral zone. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, even though we're breaking back into 70 currently. On the liquidation side, yeah, in the last 48 hours, just some decent stuff below us. We've got some interesting things coming up on the higher time frame. So if I just go to adopt a high time frame outlook, 6 month, where's the big liquidations left that are in the entire structure? Well, realistically, it's down here at this kind of vertical accumulation structure that we did at the beginning of November. So this little spot here is your next interesting level. Definitely check that out if we come down towards 76K. We are well overdue for a bounce, but do not expect it. We have to regain levels. We have to regain lows. We are now breaking lows. So remember, every bounce up until something's regained is an opportunity to continue shorting. On the liquidity heat map side, this is why we're starting to get a little into some weeds of very large positions trying to hold the levels and structure. So we do have some stuff stepping in. I mean, thousands upon thousands of Bitcoin stepping in between here and 76 to potentially hold the lows. We've got even more stepping in below that. This is entirely plunge protection team. If you don't think we can go sub 70, we can, but as long as these guys are stepping in to try and hold it, we'll see if we get the bounce. Low time frames here, there's nothing to gain back until you get back above, call it 79.1. Nothing really of interest until that happens because you're still losing levels and going lower. We want to start regaining basically previous range highs, 79K, 79.1. That's very low time frame, obviously. Priority is definitely still down. Every move up is a potential bounce to short until we start regaining some really significant levels. So with that, looking across the board to the charts, there we go. So last Friday, we were talking about we wanted to have a pretty uninteresting weekend. It was uninteresting until early Sunday. We started losing lows. And by the time we close this 4 hour, it looks very similar to what we've seen in the past of lose the low range on the 4 hour on the weekend, which continues in a massive nuke. Now, there's a couple upsides here. We do actually have some levels above us that are interesting. So somewhere around 85, 86.2, we have a CME gap. So basically from 84K up to about, what is that? Is that really? No, 84K to 86.2. There's a bit of the CME gap basically in between these 2 points. I drew that terribly. One sec. There you go. So in here, still a CME gap. We're tagging into that old CME gap below us. That old CME gap gets fully filled if we come back down here towards 76K. So just remember, we're getting into that support. This is very, very old support. This is coming from the vertical accumulation that we saw back at the beginning of November. All in all, big priority down. You're losing levels and going lower. That's the direction of travel until you gain something back. So on the higher time, on the local stuff, you're still expecting a continuation into this low. I think that once we get in towards 76, given the amount of limits, we'll probably overdue for a bounce back, but expect every bounce as a new shorting opportunity to continue going lower. The first major gain back could happen if we gain back the weekly. I still think that's quite weak. If we have a bounce move that regains the weekly, say here or at the actual low, I would expect that move to come back up to test the high that we did earlier today. So this is still going down, but it's starting to get a little bit attractive somewhere in the 82.5, 83K area, potentially to punt a continuation short. Now, the level that I really care about as far as regaining levels to go higher is this. So this is the first one. Because we're legging down and making new lows, getting above 83.5 is significant. I don't know if we'll stop at March, because if we regain 83.5, I like the idea of us popping back up to fill that CME gap. Until that occurs, you have priority down. So every move up, like I said, is a short. What changes a lot of structure is the regain of this. So getting above 86.3, just for, actually, let's go call it 86.5. I like that better. Yeah, so getting above 86.5 is what fundamentally changes some of this low structure. Gaining that back would be gaining back not just the weekend range that we broke down from, not just this range, which we're doing here on the day, but, you know, in general, the low we're doing here now. So you're talking about 3 range gains at that point. And I think gaining back 83.5, that needs to be an alert. 86.5, another alert. And yeah, I would say that that's the big thing, is that we're still going down. Watch the reactions down here at 76.5 down to about 75.5. If we get a bounce, it should happen in here. Very skeptical on the bounce. If you want to see something that's a bit more solid, wait till you get a regain of level. You regain some of the low structure that you've lost to come back up to retest stuff. Again, super, super sketchy, because the priority is definitely down. So that is it. Take it easy, and I'll catch you tomorrow.